Hello, hello.
Hello and welcome. I know I'm currently in the seat that the Not the Rebbe would be in, but he's currently dealing with drill. So, welcome to Two and a Half Opinions. I'm Yishai,
I'm Frank.
and I've already explained where the Not the Rebbe is, but he'll be back next week. He's making sure, based on Jewish law, based on Jewish understanding, life supersedes Torah. Well, life supersedes law is the way I
Well,
should
the
put it.
preservation
Preservation.
of life.
Yes. And based on that understanding, anyone who serves in medical, military, or emergency services
Police.
are, yeah, police, firefighters, anyone who's serving in emergency services or military are considered defending or preserving life, even if they have to take life to preserve life.
Yeah,
So so
difficult to.
the understanding there is they are ex- exonerated. What's the word I'm looking for? Excused from
Yeah, yeah,
from having to observe Sabbath or do other things if it preserves life.
right. So, okay, we're here. This is the parasha Yithro.
Hmm?
So, okay, give me a synopsis. What's going on here?
Well, Yethro seems to, even though it may, even though it might have plenty hidden inside it. Brief synopsis I could get at. Let's see. Jethro meets up with Moses and the rest of the children of Israel and essentially says, "Here, I've protected your wife and I've protected your kids. They can now follow you the rest of the way." And so he comes to deliver Moses's kids and Moses's wife to him. And he also and while he is there visiting, because I this is almost like your father-in-law came to visit. The parents came by. As he's visiting, he sees Moses judging people and he gives a suggestion. Do it like this, not like that. You won't stress yourself out. So we have those two incidences, and from here on out it seems like what we get is preparation for God's arrival on Mount Sinai, and God's arrival happens and then we get the 10 commandments.
Oh, so like the archival footage, right? You know, the finger or flame comes down and goes and writes, all the text on the stone and all that.
which in all honesty, out of all the imagery that I've seen in trying to portray that one I actually like the most, because you do see that little flame of that finger of flame actually writing in Hebrew. Most movies outside of the Charlton Heston one actually does that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like Yitro shows up and says, Moses, I'm your father-in-law, but hey, your wife and kids are driving me nuts. Take him, will you? So, maybe not. I mean, he did love his daughter, so he loved his grandchildren. And he took Moses in, and so he must have loved Moses too. So, but we get the booming voice, and we get the later on. It's described better in oh, where is it? I think it's Deuteronomy, but it's described, and the calves were calving, or sorry, the cows were calving, and the goats and the sheep were having, babies, and stones were cracking, and this and that, and you didn't see a face, but you saw the words. They actually came down and reverberated, and so it's difficult to see a sound. So
Yeah,
there's something
unless
special about that. But okay,
unless
so we
unless
have
God
this.
vibrates right. But no, 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 no. I didn't say that.
So so we have this. So what are we going to read?
Well, I'm thinking we can cover the sixth aliyah because, from what I've understood in our little preparation points, instead of covering all a good chunk of the Torah portion, it seems like Frank and I have come to the conclusion to cover two different opinions on the subject of the Ten Commandments. Normally, we try not to touch the Ten Commandments because they are worked on ad nauseum, but we found some pretty good points, so we want to delve in on those. And
All right.
what
All
better
right.
place to
So
start than the sixth aliyah?
sixth aliyah. Okay. When you're ready, I'll do the blessing.
I am.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'atan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein ha'Torah. Melech Ne'eman.
Amen. Exodus chapter 19, verse 20 through 20, verse 14, read from Chabad.org's translation. The Lord descended upon Mount Sinai to the peak of the mountain, and the Lord summoned Moses to the peak of the mountain, and Moses ascended. The Lord said to Moses, "Go down, warn the people lest they break their formation to go nearer to the Lord, to see, and many of them will fall. And also the priests who go near to the Lord shall prepare themselves, lest the Lord wreak destruction upon them." And Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot ascend to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, 'Set boundaries for the mountain and sanctify it.' But the Lord said to him, 'Go, descend, and then you shall ascend, and Aaron with you. But the priests and the populace shall not break their formation to ascend to the Lord, lest he wreak destruction upon them.' So Moses went down to the people and said this to them: 'Lord, the, then God spoke all these words to respond: 'I am the Lord your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have you shall not have the gods of others in my presence. You shall not make for yourself a graven image, or any likeness which is in the heavens above, which is on the earth below, or which is in the water beneath the earth. You shall neither prostrate yourselves before them, nor worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a zealous God, who visits the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons, upon the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. And I perform loving kindness to thousands of generations, to those who love me, and to those who keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold blameless anyone who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it. 6 days may you work and perform all your labor, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall perform no labor, neither you, your son, your daughter, your maid, your manservant, your maidservant, your beast, nor your stranger who is in your cities. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and sanctified it. Honor your father and your mother, in order that your days be lengthened on the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, his manservant, his maidservant, his ox, his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah imet v'kaye olam notav v'tukenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah. Oh, Melech Naaman. So there's a whole lot of stuff there. So all kidding aside, Jethro brings Zipporah and the kids. But okay, he tells Moses how to manage, and Moses does this
That is the
without.
impression. That is the
Go ahead.
impression we're led under, at the very least.
It's not until another book where we find out that actually God says, "Yeah, do what Jethro says. That's good. That's good advice." So
So
what
what?
else is there?
So what are you trying to say? Yithro is just like the the fatherless daughters who said we do not have an inheritance ourselves because the rest of our family is dead.
No, no, no. He's not like Zelophehad's daughters. No, but he
No.
actually makes a sacrifice.
Well, what I'm saying about that is the whole aspect of Yithro suggested something. God said yes, do it, and so
Ah, no, I got you.
Zelophehad
Okay, I'm
daughters.
sorry. You're right. You're
Yeah.
very right. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, it's like that. He says, God says, the Most High blessed be. He says, what Zelophehad's daughters say is right. It's righteous. So divvy out. Well, what about this? Well, then they'll have to marry inside of their tribe, which at that time was some 50, 60,000, I think. You know, so there wasn't any lack for you know finding a husband. Um, so so God just says, okay. Now, again, we don't learn until I think it's Deuteronomy that God says, yeah, that's good advice. But the thing is that he made sacrifices, not just any sacrifices, but a whole burnt offering and peace offering. So who's supposed to do that?
Well, apparently, it seems like Jethro did it. And again,
Yeah.
though he is a high priest of Midian,
Microphone.
the microphone should be functional. I'm yelling in it as best I can. But yeah, he's a high priest of Midian. It sounds like he did it, or so the Torah leads us to believe.
Right, right. But he makes an important distinction, and I think that's why his sacrifice was accepted, and why it's written down here. He makes an important distinction that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov is God. He is the God above all gods. And then he offers a burnt offering and a peace offering, and it's accepted. And all the elders go out to break bread, so to speak, with Yethro and Moses, and so
So what are you trying to say that anyone can any anyone can be accepted by God in such a fashion, so long as they are willing to point and say, "This is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and there is no other God in existence or no other God like him."
you got a point. You got a point.
Hmm.
This is one of the articles I posted on Two and a Half Opinions Facebook. The the article is, well, why were the Ten Commandments given out in the wilderness? Well, if they've been given in the land only, then the people of the land could say, well, this is given to us, it's not yours. And if they were made in another land, then that other people could say, oh, it's given to us, it's not yours. That's exactly why it was given out in the wilderness,
You
where
said
everybody could go.
you saying this reminds me of what I've said constantly on this show, And I don't think it's been hit home properly till you've pointed this little fact out. And granted, we have much to talk about the Ten Commandments. We'll get to that here in a bit, but this whole bit here reminds me of the instruction I was taught when I was at Hillel is the mindset is now granted it was a discussion on Messiah and Jesus and but the statement was um don't focus on who don't focus on whether or not Jesus is the Messiah. Focus on what you are doing to bring about the coming of Messiah. And you giving this example of Jethro just brings to mind the whole understanding that Israel has its place. Israel has its importance, yes. But do not think Israel is better. Do not think Israel is worse. Israel has their role to play, their part in this story. And they will continue to play it till God says otherwise.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
this does not mean that you also do not have a part that you don't have a part to play. You also have one as well. God is not concerned about the people as a whole. God is concerned upon the individual. Any individual who is willing to say and believe and act upon this fact that God is the only God in existence and the one that I will follow. That is what God is concerned about. He could care less if you're Jew, Gentile, what have you, so long as your heart and your actions, which I could even use uh, apostolic writings proof on that statement.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Your
could.
heart, your heart and your actions is what determines your place with God, not where you're born. Israel just has a different role. They have a different task. God
Israel
said,
is a light unto the nations.
yes.
Why? To bring Torah to the nation.
So their job is to bring Torah to the nations. But it does not make them better. And it does not make them worse. They have their role. The nations have their role.
Yep. It's God is concerned about everyone, not just one nation. He assigns a nation to do a task. That task may not be a glorious task, but he assigns them to do that task. And each nation and each person in that nation decides to follow or not follow God, which is precisely why this was given in the wilderness. It's so here it is. You want it? It's right there. Go ahead, pick it up. You can follow it. It's not that hard. Not across the sea. It's not up in heaven. It's right there. It's right next to you. Go ahead. So,
Which is interesting considering our two different opinions about the Ten Commandments dwells very similar to that same concept. Do you want to start or shall I on that front?
please serve.
Alrighty then. This should be fun. Well, if I read the portion correctly, using the sixth aliyah as our piece of information, the Lord descended upon Mount Sinai to the peak of the mountain, and the Lord summoned Moses to the peak of the mountain, and Moses ascended. This this aliyah starts delving into not only the final preparations and God's final arrival on Mount Sinai, but also it delves into the most well versed, though not always the most well understood, section in Torah. The
How
Ten
about the most? How
Commandments.
about the most repeated?
Most definitely the most repeated.
Excuse me.
It is often recited, often repeated, used by used by religious and non-religious people alike when it comes to certain aspects, and when it comes to the other aspects, recited by many who are religious. But I have an interesting proposition. This section of Torah does hold a similarity to another section of Torah. We've been
And
here
what would that
before.
be?
For Moses's mindset, he's been here before. I'm willing to say that this holds some level of similarities to the burning bush in a lot of appearances. First, we have the whole descending. First, we have the whole descending of God onto Mount Sinai, and if I remember correctly, when God descended on Mount Sinai, the mountain was encased in flames and lightning, thick cloud. It was. It looked like to anyone of moderate intelligence, it would look like the entire mountain would be scorched in flame to nothing left of existence. Well, I do believe Moses has been here before because God descended on that bush and the bush was encased in flames. But the bush was not being destroyed in the slightest, just as this mountain is not. This mountain is where God is. And to expound upon that, there's more similarities than just that. As we continue on, God does tell Moses in the burning bush, stay back. Don't come any closer. Keep your distance. Of course, he also tells him to remove his sandals, but there's no sign of sandal removing at Mount Sinai. But in the same aspect, the children of Israel are told, do not come close to the mountain. You will die if you come close. As we proceed on, we have the instruction. We have the instructions of the Ten Commandments. We started with, I am the Lord your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. If we remember, if we go back to the burning bush, we have, I I am the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob,
And this is
and
my
I will
memorial name forever.
and I will help you. I will take you out of the land of Egypt. Which it's interesting that it's played off like that. God introduces to himself to Moses as, I am the Lord of your fathers. He never says I am your God. But he says, I will take the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Which brings a rather interesting point. So God is essentially pulling a reverse of Jacob, if you will. Because Jacob did say, once you've done all of this for me, then you will be my God. You will not just be my father's and my father's father's God. you will be my God, and I will follow you. So essentially, God is doing the same thing here. It's the whole understanding of I am I am the Lord, I am the God of your forefathers. I am not, you don't know me to call to to have we you don't know me because I have not taken you out of land of Egypt. I have not brought you up from your lowest point to be your God.
Hmm. Okay. So this is because we went over that uh, a few, quite a few portions ago. Isn't that Jacob just kind of acknowledging that God is God? Because this, he said this after he had the dream, and he said this after he'd already made the pile or the stones and poured, a libation over it. So it's kind of the same, yeah. It rings the same, Uh, what else do you got? Is not the Rebbe there? Huh?
No, last I checked, he's still at drills.
Okay. You were just
Others, I know
you had your attention off
others
someplace
are
else.
others are pointing at me because they are overhearing and trying to give me pointers.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one at this house. I know he still has drill, so
Yeah.
I don't know when he's coming back. But say say that, get that point across again real quick.
Um, Jacob is responding to the dream he had, and he's been reminded through the dream that God is God, and he wakes up and if you'll do this, and I think he's more or less stating what he's already been told. If you'll do this, and you promise to bring me home, and you promise to give me food, and you promise to have something that I can wear, and you've promised that I can return to my father in peace, then you are my God. It's more of an affirmation, I think, than than making a deal, so to speak.
As
How does that
as
sound?
it's been, and I see where you're going with this. As it's been worded, I am the God you know about, but I am not the God you have experienced. Now that I've taken you out of the land of Egypt, I am the God you have experienced. So I am now your God as well, not just your father's that you've heard about.
Yeah.
But uh, but as we continue on, we have even more references that just expound upon this subject, this comparison. We 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 have the section of God's introduction of himself, and we have the way that Moses presented himself to God. So if God has taken the approach of I am I am that I am, Moses Moses' understanding, who am I? God shows who he is, while Moses takes the approach of who am I? It's 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 that mindset of if God is all powerful, what am I? That is the approach
Ah,
Moses is taking.
okay. I think I see where you're going. So what else is happening here? What else is that we need to focus on so we can move the story along?
Well, that's where I'm actually going with this. Is we move on to the second part of the Ten Commandments. The burning bush is the perfect play on to this. Moses' statement is, "Who am I?" Well, God says, "Don't worry, I will be with you. I will be with you every step of the way." But God's statement at the Ten Commandments is, "There will be no other gods before me." It is the commandment. It is the understanding that you will not serve those that are not me, because I have shown you who I am. I have explained that I will be with you. And since I have explained and shown you that I will be with you, you will not leave me. And as
Okay,
we
so you're saying that since the Most High, blessed be He, defeated all of the deities of Egypt, He's in essence showing that, okay, see, I am greater than all the other false gods you ever heard of. I am the Most High. I am God. Is that what you're saying?
something more personal actually, considering the fact that when God said, "I will be with you," Moses was in a low point based on what God was wanting him to do. God in the burning bush was saying, "This is the way, this is what you will do, and I will be with you." But Moses' reaction was, "Why me? I'm not worthy of this. Why me? I'm too low of an individual to be this." And God's statement is, "Don't worry, I will be with you." And just like that, God was with the children of Israel in their low point, brought them out of the lowest point of their life, the land of Egypt, the house of slavery. And so in that statement, it is a the connection between the burning bush and the Ten Commandments is like a before and after, if you will, with the way that it's performed. Because God's statement in the first commandment, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," it's the mindset of God is saying, "I was with you. Now you shall not leave me.
Okay,
I
all
have
right.
done what I said I will do, so you will be with me."
Okay, so um, it's also like He said at the crossing of the Reed Sea or the Red Sea, whichever one. Uh, you know, now you will see what God can do, and the waters are parted. They walk across on dry land. Okay, no, nada, niet. Nobody has ever done anything like that before or ever will again, except maybe the Most High Himself, blessed be He. So it's a see. There's no need to worry. I'm with you. Is that kind of what?
That is along the lines, because it is that mindset of, "I was with you, so don't leave me."
Okay, all right, all right. So
And
and
as we proceed on, we have the situation of, "Don't take the Lord's name in vain," as we follow the Ten Commandments down the line.
oh, I do want to
Well,
say one thing. And it says, "I'm the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." And I know Chris gets on this about where do we make the division in the Ten Commandments? What's the first commandment? Because Catholics, Protestants, and others they all separate the 10 out differently. But the very first is, "I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." This
yes,
is this is the qualifying preamble statement to everything.
yes,
Okay, you shall not have the gods of others in my presence. It's before me, meaning right here in my presence. Okay, no foreign god. Put all that stuff away, destroy it, get rid of it. grind it into powder. No other gods in my presence. When you talk to me, you talk to me. You don't talk to them. You talk to me. Not me, literally, but God. Uh,
Yes.
so, yeah. So that's actually the first commandment. In chapter 20, verse 2 and 3. It's actually one commandment. Uh, you know, you shall not make yourself graven images, likenesses, and of anything. And you shall neither prostrate before them to worship them, for I am the Lord your God. I am a zealous God. Or in some translations, it says jealous God, who visits the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons unto the third and the fourth generation. And so God is trying to say, these things that I'm telling you, and these things that I tell you not to do, and if you do them, these are the consequences. These are forever. These are not, 30-day trial. First 10,000 miles, and after that, if you don't like it, you can trade it in. No. This is forever. You sign upon, you take me as God. In other words, you realize and you confess that he is God. That's what you get. So it's a personal request from God. Mike, I can't hear you.
Wrong direction. I believe it is more of a personal recap, if you will, considering the way that the burning bush was depicted and the way the Ten Commandments are depicted. It's almost as if God is individually talking to the children of Israel, just like how he spoke to Moses, but in a before and after scenario, because when speaking to Moses, I will free them. When speaking to the children of Israel, I have freed you.
Right. I
And
see
so
the difference.
that
And
is
it's
the
as I've said before, that people say, well, how do you get 613 mitzvah out of 10 words? Well, it's a data burst. Under each commandment or utterance, you can actually go through and list in the Torah, okay, those apply to this one, and then the next commandment, and these apply to this one, and that you can get 613 that way. 613 is a slightly arbitrary number. Some say there's a little bit more, some say there's a little bit less. It's like um, Jews will quote that the pomegranate has 613 seeds. And no, it doesn't have 613 seeds, but it has a lot of seeds. It's an equivalency. It's as if it had 613. Now, I'm not going to dispute the 613 mitzvot. They're there. You just have to look for them. But there's a oh there's an equivalency or a frame of reference when God speaks to man. It's as this was done, so this will be done, and as that was done, so that will be done. Do you get what I'm saying? He's trying to bring forth an equivalency, like I said I was going to free you, I have freed you.
I
No?
think I think I see what you're saying.
Yes?
I said I think I see what you're saying.
Okay. Your picture didn't change, so I didn't quite hear you.
Oh, switches. But as we proceed, we run into a little bit more. We run into a rather interesting piece on the subject of God saying, "You shall not take the Lord's name in vain." It is expounded upon, but it is also conveyed as a before and after scenario here as well in the burning bush. When Moses says, "What shall I when I am sent?" and they ask who sent you, what shall I tell them? God says, "I am that I am." God is giving his God is giving his name as his sign to the children of Israel as to who was sent. God is conveying his his mercy, his love, his empathy, if you will, to the children of Israel through his choice of name. And if we jump to the the 10 commandments, God makes the statement, "You shall not take the Lord's name in vain. You shall not treat it as commonplace." So it is the understanding of, if I have given you my name as a representation of my empathy for you, my desire to care for you, to love you, to protect you, don't take what I have given you lightly. Do not treat it as commonplace. For I do this out of love. I do this out of respect. I do this out of the desire to be close to you. So if you take what I have given you and treat it as nothing more than, for example, an example that I was given earlier today, if your wife gives you a birthday card or some sort of lovely card and it's fancy and it's pretty and it's flowery and it explains her love for you, and you look at that card and say, "Oh, that's impressive," but then you set the card aside and continue on with either the rest of your day or the gifts you have or the other gifts you've been given. How much of an insult is that? How harsh is that visually?
That's a good question. Yeah.
And it it, it even proceeds on further. You have the signs, if you will. If we look at the burning bush, Moses was given three signs to indicate that God had sent him. The snake, you're turning an inanimate object into something that has the capacity for life. Your hand, you're taking what is your way of continuing your life, your, at least in their time frame, your hand is full of life because it is attached to you, and now the hand is covered in death, in leprosy. And then you have the sign of the water into blood, two things that
Well,
represent
hold
life.
on. But the hand becomes leprous, and then the hand becomes not leprous. Don't
Yes.
leave that out.
It's primarily because it was initially a sign. It was to indicate that I can be death. I can. It is a portrayal of life and death and the control that is on that by indicating the hand is leprous, the hand is not.
Right, and it's an indication of life, death, and resurrection.
Which adds more interesting facts to the whole pile, because the next sign was the water turning into blood. Two things that hold life, if you will. Water is the essence of life because you actually need to drink water to stay alive. Blood is the essence of life because it is what keeps you running. But if water is turned into blood, two things that are meant for life in their own respect, their own way of viewing, now is nothing more than death because you cannot drink the water anymore. You will die.
True. It's also that water is the closest analog to blood. Actually, seawater is the closest analog to blood. It's a I think it's close to the same composition. Uh, Blood actually has more in it, yes, I know, but as far as a fluid, I mean, that's why they give you a saline solution to help replenish your blood.
But based on this fact, those three signs, those three indications, the staff, the hand, and water, they were all signs. They were indications of God showing that he is the creator, and this is Moses's relationship with God. It is through these signs that that Moses can convey to the rest of the world how he is with God, what his mission is from God, the kind of closeness he has to God, that he has this power from God. And if we continue on, there is one sign that we are given in the Ten Commandments: the Sabbath. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. It is a sign of my relationship, that I am the creator, and this is my relationship with Israel, just like how the hand, the staff, and the water were signs of God's relationship with Moses.
Okay. So remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it, or actually, I believe that translate guard, correct?
Um, to sanctify, it can be used as guard, but it is to show to keep the Sabbath because God chose them.
Right. And don't get me wrong, it's not only guard. It's like saying shalom. Okay, shalom means so many things, not just peace. Uh, so remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it. 6 days may you work and perform all your labor, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord, your God. You shall perform no labor. Neither you, your son, your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your beast, nor your stranger who is in your cities. No
And
work.
and I've mentioned probably about four connections so far between the Ten Commandments and the discussion with Moses at the burning bush. But there is still, at the very least, one more. There are there have always there are always so many different connections, but there is at least one more connection here. And this one we would actually have to look into the Hebrew to point this one out, considering the tie-ins. The choice used in Moses' discussion with God. He tries to say to God, I am slow in speech and slow in tongue. I I cannot perform my words well. And God's statement was, who made man? Who made man's lips? Who who allowed them for the power of speech? And the word is uh one moment.
While you're looking at, uh, I wanted to make an observation. This is also the creation because God restates it. 6 days may you work and perform all your labor. The seventh day is a Sabbath. This is a recap. He's stating, look, I'm the one who created this place. I am God. I am the Most High God. Blessed be He. So with each utterance, each word, each commandment, God is establishing just who He is. And He's telling the children of Israel, you'll do this because I am God. You'll do this because you want to. If you choose not to, that's a different story altogether. There are different consequences for that. Or you could not listen to me and go back, to wherever you were. Obviously, they can't go back to Egypt. Egypt has been destroyed, but it's a It's I have brought you this far. You have finally listened to me about the Sabbath and about the manna and about the quail. So now I'm going to tell you this is what's required of you. And it's not in a harsh way. It's in a very caring way. I mean, the Most High, again, blessed be He, sets before the children of Israel all these commandments. And He's telling them the commandments. He's telling them the utterances, the words out front without some kind of hidden, got you on that one. No, no, got you on that one. No, no, he's giving forth everything he wants of them and can tell them that they'll understand. And in that light, he's a very compassionate God. He's a very loving and kind God. He's not a trickster. He's not anything to be afraid of, unless. So, I'm sorry, you were going to say something. I
No,
went
no,
on a
no,
little bit too long.
no. You're good. You're good. Well, as I said, you and I both have different points on this subject. I'm conveying the point of the comparison between the burning bush, Moses' experience with the burning bush, and the Ten Commandments. And you had told me, and as you have just conveyed to others, that there is a comparison of the Ten Commandments the and the creation story, if you will, to
Right,
shorten it up.
right.
And
Um, as I said, the last couple of portions, there's things of 10. Okay, the 10 Sephiroth, or attributes of God, the 10 Commandments. There's the 10 wonders, or the 10 plagues. They're actually wonders because no person, alive or dead, can do those things. Only God can do those things. There's It's not a bedtime story, but it's a story that God wants to impart to the children of Israel so that they'll remember it, so that they'll follow it, so that they'll embrace it, so that they will be His children, His firstborn. Now, a few things happen where the Levites become the firstborn, etc. But as far as God is concerned, I'm pretty sure He still believes all of Israel are His firstborn. So if you step back, God is not a wrathful God. He's not an angry God. Yeah, you did this on this day, and so therefore you're going to, burn. No, no, no. God gives the information to the children of Israel in the best way that they can understand it for their level of understanding. So He did the 10 plagues. He did the 10 commandments. And there were all signs after, you know, uh, uh, after the plagues. I mean, who walks in the desert with a pillar of cloud so high that over 1 million, possibly 2 million people can see it as they're walking through the desert? Okay, we're following that. All right, we're going that way. And at night, okay, there's a pillar of flame. Well, it gives us all light. Wow, that's far away, but yet we have light here. What's going on? But we're following that. Okay, the separation of the waters, and then the destruction of Egypt, including Pharaoh. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody can do that. Only God can do that. So He is meeting the children of Israel at their level of understanding. Even even Moses, okay, Moshe Rabbeinu, uh, Moses, our teacher or the teacher, even Moses has to be hidden in the cleft of a rock, and he can't see the front, the face of God. He can see God's hinder parts. Okay, we're talking about somebody who has been essentially bathed in the power of God. And even if he did see God's front parts, his face, he would go mad or he would die. But here we're talking about a very spiritual person who has been groomed by God, can only see God's hinder parts. So Moses is on a different level, okay? He's on a different level. And the children of Israel are on a different level. So God reaches down to them to explain. And in the hopes that the children of Israel will reach up to him with love and care and understanding and reverence, okay? Because of what he's done for them. Of course, we have our complainers in the crowd who will end up being consumed by the earth. To mention a couple, Dathan and Abiram. Then we have a few portions later, Korah, etc., etc. So, or actually, sorry, Korah first, then Dathan and Abiram. Anyway, we have people within the midst of the children of Israel who just don't get it, or maybe I should say don't want to get it, because they want to live life their own way, their own, oh yeah, you're my God, sure. It's lip service, and they pay the price for it. It's not. I mean, yeah. How can we, sitting here in our nice, comfortable armchairs, say we would do anything different if we were in the wilderness with the children of Israel and Moses and God kept caring for us? I don't know that we could. We would like to think we could. We would like to think that we would not be irreverent. We would like to think that we would embrace God. But where would our minds be? Where would our level of understanding be in reference to, Moses and God, all the way up there? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to
Our level of understanding would be increased if we had teachers. Everyone needs a teacher, but everyone does tend to repeat the same questions, the same ideas. Everyone starts in the same location when it comes to these matters. It only takes a teacher of proper understanding and proper direction to get us and our willingness, because we need our willingness in order to reach these levels as well.
it takes a teacher who's willing to find a common frame of reference for the student or the pupil that they're teaching. Yes?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, one quick thing, because there was that fifth point that I did not nail on. I'm going to jump right back to it real briefly, because I did find the word uh, kavad or kaved, depending on the vowel points. Kaf bet dalit is used in explaining Moses' understanding of slow in speech, slow in tongue, his slowness, his ability to articulate. And when this fact was pointed out at me, this comparison, it brought to mind more things than just what the comparison was shown to me. Because Kaf Bet Dalet is later on used in the fifth commandment. Um, Honor your father and your mother. it is used as the word honor, not used in the way that Moses used it in reference to speech and his ability to perform words of proper understanding, which brought to mind something rather interesting because kaf bet dalet is used for honor in reference to honor your father and your mother in the fifth commandment.
So is it possible that Moses was trying to say that I'm slow of speech, therefore I would not give you honor properly?
I
Think that
believe
might be it or
I
part of it?
believe that is exactly where my mind actually jumped to with this is the whole understanding of God gave him God gave him everything because God later on explains who made man's mouth, who gave him the power of speech, sight, make him deaf, make him blind. Is it not I? And it is that understanding of what is the best way to honor your father and your mother, but to perform, but to proclaim it with the abilities and understandings that they gave you. The cards that you were dealt upon your birth is what you have to work with. So honor the people who brought you into this world. Honor the mother and the father that chose to come together and create to help God in creating life. It is that same persona that God is trying to portray to Moses is I gave you the power of speech. I created you. Don't worry. I will be there to help you. And so as Moses attempted to portray as best as he could through speech or through not speech based on the use of Aaron in this one, he did bring honor to God. And so that is what God is trying to convey in the fifth commandment is you are to honor your father and your mother through your words, through your actions, based on what you have been given.
That could also, the way it's played here, and again, I'm not a Torah scholar, but it could also mean speak well of your father and your mother, couldn't it?
Say that again.
It could also mean speak well of your father and your mother.
Exactly, because as it was conveyed to me, Moses is essentially saying because I'm slow in speech and slow in tongue, you've chosen the wrong person. I cannot bring you the honor that is required of you to to Israel, to Pharaoh. And God's still saying, no, no, you've got it all wrong. I made your mouth. I gave you the ability of speech. You need not. Yeah.
What?
He I have the voices in the background trying to
Ah,
help me with my own speech in conveying what I am trying to portray. But it is that mindset. Moses is saying, God, you made a mistake. I am not the person who can speak for you. You made a mistake, and it is because of this that God says honor your father and your mother. It is the comparison of words of speech to respect, to honor, to do the job that is required is a better way to word it, because that's what Moses is trying to convey by saying I am slow of speech and slow in tongue. You've got the wrong guy. I can't do this.
and God says, what? Do you think I'm chopped liver? Yes, you can do this.
Exactly. God still showed you're the man I want. You're the man who can convey me to the rest of the world that I am the God of all things, that I am the God of all creation.
Right.
because God provided him with what was necessary. Just as the creation of us through a mother and a father getting together and procreating, what we are given, we have just the right stuff. We have what is required of us to convey the honor to those who created us. Or, considering people might jump down my throat on the fact that I'm saying we are creators just like God, co created us.
Yeah. 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 What God wants with us is to be co-creators with Him. I mean, that's why He created Adam, to till the garden, to co-create with Him. So, yeah, yeah, I get it.
What about you? What and well, I will say before I say that this is pretty much the end. This story of the burning bush and this story of the 10 commandments, and you have as you have provided this story in the creation series, it does give a rather interesting understanding of God. He is very, as it has been worded to me, cyclical. It is the mindset of everything is happening the way it should, just as it has happened before.
Hmm, okay.
Through the creation story, through the burning bush, through the 10 commandments, God has not changed. God has still shown who he is, what he represents, what he is capable of. It is that whole establishment of nothing has changed and nothing will change because I am the Lord who created heaven and earth. I have created this, and so with what I have created, you will do, you will follow, you will abide by your words of do and then understand, do and then do and obey, as it has been translated in
Right. And
other encounters.
let's not get past the point that God is not a puppet master. Okay. God is asking for the cooperation of Israel. He is not demanding it. I mean, he is saying, "Look, I've done this for you. You are mine now.
He is
Do this."
making demands in the whole subject of viewing it as a contract of if I am going to be your god, you will do this. But he is not making demands in the sense of I created you so I could take you out if you don't obey me. He's
Right.
he's not
Right.
he's not the wrathful parent who is saying obey or die. No. He or if you are not with me, you are against me. No. He's saying if you are going to follow me as I am your God, then I require that you abide by my rules, abide by my understandings, so that you better understand why I created you, why I created this entire heaven and earth, because it is through your understanding and it is through the signs that I have given you that you honor me. You honor your creator. You honor those who brought you into this world.
Okay. All right. I think we covered everything we wanted to get to, didn't we?
Yeah, pretty much. I almost would have considered that my wrap up just because of the way that sounded.
Okay. Um, and I just want to go over the rest of this. real quick. Okay, so for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and sanctified it. Honor your mother and father. You shall not murder. That's what it says. Not kill, murder. There's a difference. Look it up. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, nor you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, his manservant, his maidservant, his ox, his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. Well, that's all in one verse. So did we get shortened here? We got fewer commandments if we go by verses, or
Whoever said
maybe
we're
we
going
have
by
the same
verses?
commandments, huh?
Whoever said we're going by verses? Because if we're going by verses, we've already hit 14 commandments.
Oh, actually, we should be going by statements because you shall not murder. In English, it's only 4 words with a period. That's a statement. You'll catch on what I'm saying. Not you, Jesse. I'm talking about the audience. Wait a second. Do we have an audience? Has anybody
We
logged
have
in?
an audience. We have an audience. Need not worry.
Okay.
We
Well, I
have
mean,
people.
it would be nice if the audience would maybe put a message in the chat or the YouTube or something. Let us know how we're doing or how we're not doing.
Well, someone
So,
already let us know earlier on that I was low in audio, but that's about it so far.
okay, okay.
But again, though, this mic always loves to run away from my mouth, so low in audio is kind of a shtick with me.
I'm gonna get some duct tape and I'm gonna tape that sucker to the side of your face.
Like this?
Yes, there you go. All right. So I guess if you went backwards, you shall not covet, whatever belongs to your neighbor, or this, that, or the other thing, not bearing false witness, not committing adultery, not committing murder. Oh, then you actually show the relationship from the human side going up to God. Whereas if you begin at the beginning, you show the relationship of God coming down to mankind. Sort of like a ladder. Yeah? Whose ladder?
You trying to compare Jacob's ladder to the mix?
Oh, could be.
I think we've done a lot of comparisons today. Let's not fry people too quickly.
I'm not trying to fry anybody. I'm just trying to be a light, that's all.
I think my brain is already cooked.
Well, there's again, 2.5 Opinions Facebook. If you go and look, Jeremy, at least I know, reads it. So I get a hey, that was pretty good from him every once in a while. It talks about the Great Sinai Debate is one of the articles. This is from kabbalah.org. And it compares 2 great scholars. One takes the aspect of from God down, the other one takes the aspect from people up. So read it. You might enjoy it. But as for that, I think that's everything, isn't it?
That seems to be everything.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that's all, folks.
So, not the Rebbe is not here.
No, but he will be here next week.
Right. I'm Frank. I'm the irreverent one.
I'm Yishai, trying to learn as best I can.
Okay.
Rabbi will be not the Rebbe will be with us next week as drill weekend is over.
Right. And this is 2.5 Opinions, and we'd very much like you to come back next week tell some friends, bring them along. Let's make a party out of it. So,
Sounds about right.
oh, I hear toe talk.
Ah, ignore the dog. He's excited.
So, uh, that's it for 2.5 opinions. We hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully, it was somewhat, informative. And if not, leave us a message. If there's something we can improve upon, we'll try. But
My
as
mic can
for all
only
of
go
us,
so close to my mouth.
do what?
Just tongue in cheek, based on that fact. Uh, Try to improve what we can. My mic can only go so close to my mouth.
Yeah, yeah. But duct tape works wonders.
But Shavua Tov, Laila Tov,
Lehithro.
Vilahitrot, so long and thanks for all the fish.
Yeah. What's with all this bread? Get Oh,
Ah,
he's
Shavua Tov.
Chivoto.